just chime in here. I mean, Nina really said it very well. So I really can't add too much to that, but I will tell you this, the amazing thing about streaming is, and look at my face and you can see I've been around the block a few times. I'm a little on the older side. And a lot of people assume that, streaming is just for millennials, it's just for teens, it's this, that. And what's ultimately happened, particularly during the pandemic, is us 50 plussers have really discovered streaming. And we all now realize this, if you're looking for content, if you're home on whatever night, you're like, what could we watch? You're going right to a streamer. You're going to go to Netflix, whatever. So they've done that amazingly well. But again, and I said this earlier about linear, it's not going away. I think there's better ways for the two to work together. And I think if they work together more hand in hand, they can monetize, the monetization could be better. There were ways to do that. But I mean, in terms of content and what streaming has done, it's amazing, really amazing.
Yeah, and I would just add to that very quickly. Look, there's a lot of defending what people have always known and been comfortable with, and less a willingness to discover and experimentation. I mean, I think when you look at the ability of much in the streaming world, the targeting, the measurement rivals a mobile display. I mean, that's amazing when you can layer it up with all the audience parameters in a way that you can't do from a linear perspective. And again, there's so many ways in which streaming can complement linear, accentuate it. Look, it can teach it, meaning you look at the performance around streaming, around the same content, same exact shows, to better understand how to optimize your linear buys so you focus on the networks that really matter, around the shows that really count. It's its greatest, streaming is not the greatest threat to linear, it's its greatest teachable moment. And I think that's what people underscore, just using streaming to teach you how to better leverage the business of linear. That way, it's like the new front teaching the upfronts. And so you understand what you should be locking into and what you should not.
Thank you so much. Next question. What shows stand out for you as possible next big hits, either streaming or linear? Let's just do a rapid fire. Albert?
Wow. There's, what? I would probably say in general context, the way the platforms are curating what I'd say multicultural content to see top Black shows, top Latino shows. And look, the world is getting a lesson that there's great content from all factions and cultures. I think that is probably one of the greater teachable moments. Instead of them being buried and not being able to discover them, bringing them to the fore. So now people get exposure beyond what has been stereotypical or what the main hits are on ABC, NBC, and CBS. I think that is just a major move just by all the platforms, even on the linear side, in really spotlighting not only culturally relevant shows for other segments, but shows that have, let's say, a strong Black lead, a strong Latino lead, a strong Asian lead. Like that's a movement that was well overdue.
Thank you. Nina, any big hits coming?
Yeah. Well, to speak more broadly, right, I think shows that build on existing franchises like Star Wars and reboots tend to get a lot of excitement in the space. However, there is just so much content. And so one of the things that I'm just kind of interested in as a consumer is how the platforms and OEMs will continue to develop their content recommendations, because there's a lot of great content out there, and we just have to make it easier to connect the dots with the right content for the right consumers.
Thank you. Mark?
I think the big title, I think one show that's just people are just going to be standing in line, so to speak, to watch is the series version of The Lord of the Rings, which will be on Amazon. This goes down in the record books as being the most expensive show ever produced. They haven't said when exactly it will premiere, but I could tell you this, it's going to get a lot of interest. And, Amazon snapped it up, and I mean, they're all spending a fortune on content, but I mean, I'm going to cheat a little bit here because it's not a new show, but I think, at least I know with me, so many people I know, we're all waiting for Stranger Things to come back. I mean, now they're saying 2022. What does that mean? Is it January 1st? Is it June? When is it? So I know that's going to be a big thing. I am waiting for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to come back on Amazon. And then, I say this every year, and the one show on a cable network that is now very prevalent on streaming is, and I always say I'm not going to watch it, but American Horror Story, because I have a hard time sitting through it, but it's something I can't stop watching. So it's a weird kind of thing. And I have to say this sadly about the linear platforms, the broadcast networks. As much as I say they're not going away, there is nothing that I'm anticipating. I'm really not. I mean, do I want to watch a new version of the Wonder Years? I would have much rather have seen a show that wasn't the Wonder Years, and maybe it was something else that sounded interesting. Why do I want to watch the Wonder Years again? And Albert had said something, mentioned, I don't want to pick up on this, the diversity issue. I mean, I think we're doing a better job now. I think we're not there yet. We have a long way to go. We have to really, we have to show the world as it is. But I think I'm seeing a lot of progress. And I give the broadcasters, I commend them for that, but more work to get done.
Thank you. One last question from our guests. Do you think the new upfronts are necessary? Do you think that they'll change as you move to a more nimble, flexible way of buying? Real quick, because I know we're running out of time.
I'll start if you want. Do I think they're necessary? Not necessarily. That's the way I'm going to answer that. And I say this also, it's sort of like the same way I say every year. Why does the broadcast season have to start the third week of September? I mean, this is a year-round business. This is, 52 weeks out of the year. I don't think it's totally necessary to have, a specific selling season, because with the scatter market, the selling is going on, it's going on all year, basically. So at this point, I mean, sometimes it's hard to change things, and the upfronts have been around for a while. Now we have the new fronts. Do I think that necessarily at this very time? No, I don't think we really have to have it. It's a year-long thing.
So I'll add to that. I think I agree and disagree with Mark. I do think that the marketplaces are necessary, but I also do think that they will evolve and change. And I don't think there's ever going to be a future where we just think audience 100% and content doesn't matter at all. So the buy side needs to be educated and aware of the new content offerings that are coming out. But I do think it will evolve into a more always on, it could be like an every month, every other month kind of education on the buy side of what's happening from the content side as well.
Yeah, I'd have to, it's kind of like this. They have value, absolutely. I think some of the context of what's shared between new fronts and upfronts needs to evolve. They need to be a heavier result on outcomes and how they help support business outcomes. Look, brands are, as I said, they're not in the business of making TV shows or building TV networks. They got a product, they're looking for a consumer. At the end of the day, that's what they're trying to onboard, and a buyer is trying to look for the best places to essentially accomplish that. What you sometimes lack in these forums is you didn't say anything about that. You just talked about your slate of shows and how amazing you dog and pony celebrities you brought out. That's not enough when a top marketer is saying, yes, but I own to the board what our revenue and profit stream is going to be. How is this going to track to that? I think that is what's needed in those forums. Because look, some of the things you would do custom, for which there is no upfront, new front forum, because you're speaking directly with partners to come up with unique ideas. But you do need to be aware of what's tracking, what's out there, and particularly the orientation around platforms and networks to know if you have to think differently about them. And I think that's important context. But I think the other thing is whether it's necessary depends on the level of maturity of the brand that you're representing, where some understand what's out there and what they're going to get from it and have already made a decision, and some are on a path of discovery of trying to see what the opportunities that may essentially lie ahead. So I think there is a place for them. There is an evolution that needs to take place within them so people understand the value that you actually are accountable to a client. That's, again, on the outcome side. And I think people can start to pick when they need to get back into the rotation of it. It's kind of like you don't have to go to the same conference every year, but every 3 or 4 years, you should probably show up to see what's new, to see what has changed, to know what you're missing, to ensure that you're staying relevant.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for sharing your expertise and insights. And thank you to everybody in attendance. We'll be sending out a survey later today. We rely on your feedback, so please take 3 minutes to complete it. One last
Thank you.
reminder to visit our website at thinkla.org to sign up for our newsletter and stay up to date on upcoming events and industry news. And have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.